Okay, I hope I'm live. I'm going on a new setup. I didn't even get a chance to test it, so I'm going to go and check real quick because there's breaking news about Donald Trump and the um, assassination attempt on his life. Let's just go to my channel real quick, see what we're seeing. The Revelation Watchman. See if it shows that I'm live. Okay, I am live. Okay, good. So I want you guys to see this real quick. I want you to understand the magnitude of what's going on right now. More importantly, let's see where we are. If you follow my work, you know that I talk heavily about the Book of Revelation and end time Bible prophecy. Right now, what I want you to see is this verse right here, where I always talk about how we're in the Book of Revelation, chapter 17. First off, let me explain this. Here's the preface of what I'm trying to explain right now. I'm trying. Donald Trump, an assassination attempt was just made towards Donald Trump. He survived, and the President Trump survived the multiple shots that was made towards him. But the implication of this is going to change the course of United States. I've been trying to show and explain for everyone who follow my work that we're in the pages of the Book of Revelation, specifically chapter 17, and I'm trying to show how what's happening as we speak right now leads us to the events mentioned in chapter 17 with the rise of the 10 kings and ushering the events of that chapter, specifically chapter 17. Now, what happened to President Trump today in his um, the assassination attempt that he survived. Mind you, this man has relentlessly been under scrutiny with the Stormy Daniels campaign hush money, with the confidential files kept at Mar-a-Lago, with the bank fraud case, with the emoluments clause, the Ukraine conversation with President Zelensky when he was in office, the January 6th, the list goes on and on and on and on. Nothing has brought this man down from running for the president of the United States in 2024. Then we see 4 months prior to the election, we find that President Trump, someone tried to take his life in an attempt to try to thwart him from running a president for 2024. Folks, he's going to win. He's going to win. You got to understand, in terms of scripture, God dictates who will rule nations. God is the one who appoints leaders of nations, just as he did with King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon in taking Jerusalem back into captivity. Or if it was Pharaoh in taking the Jews to be slaves in Egypt, he allowed that to happen to further his will, whatever the case may be. So it seems obvious nothing is going to stop President Trump from being president again. It is ordained. It just doesn't seem like nothing's going to stop him. And what happened today has locked that in. There is nothing. The American people will, without a doubt, vote for a president whose opposing political party, Democrats, have been saying he's dangerous, he's dangerous, he's dangerous, he's dangerous, he's the threat to democracy. But the man is being shot at. That right there is going to tell voters, well, if he's so dangerous, why are people shooting at him? Plus, not to mention, the American people will side with the president who an assassination attempt was made toward and survives, and holds the. You've seen the photos of him holding his fist up as a surviving hero and former president of the United States, surviving an assassination attempt. That right politics is about perception. So if anybody was on the fence about President Trump winning, this has definitely nudged them to push him in locking in his win. There's nothing that's going to change that. And I believe that from what I'm seeing and watching, President Trump is going to be reelected again because he's going to usher in a transition and change that will alter the course of history and give rise to The 10 kings of the book of Revelation. That's where we are. I've taught you and I've showed you how from the book of Revelation we are in the era of the 10 kings mentioned in Daniel and Revelation. And I've showed you that what I can't figure out, this verse I'm about to show you on the screen in just a second, was what caused I always, in fact, let me just show you. So here's what I want to bring up. Now we're in the verse where we're in the verse, we're chapter. Now let's recap again. Here's the minds have seven. I showed you in chapter 17 how this talks about the rise of the Roman Catholic Church. I showed you how the harlot sits in the beast. The purple is the bishops, the red's the cardinals, the golden cup is the Eucharist ritual that they use. The gold precious stones of pearls that the harlot wears is the papal tiaras. The seven hills that the harlot sits on is the Vatican that sits in the middle of seven hills where you see the seven heads. It says here there are also seven kings, talking about seven popes, the last seven popes of the last days of the last seven. Five of those popes have fallen. I showed you that, which when you starts at 1922 until 1978, five of those popes have fallen. One is who's the sixth, which is Pope John Paul II, passed away in 2005. And then it said, this prophecy here, the other has not come yet. And when he comes, he must continue for a short time. That prophecy is where we find, let me see, highlighted here. The prophecy here, that he shall come for a short time. That's the prophecy where, geez, these pop-ups. That is the prophecy where Pope Benedict will be there only for a short time. He fulfilled that prophecy. Leaving verse 11, the one who is not is himself is also the eighth, going to perdition to be Pope Francis. Now, the next prophecy is the 10 horns, which you saw are 10 kings. Now, that was fulfilled with Queen Elizabeth passing away, giving rise to the ninth king, King Charles, and then Queen Margaret of Denmark abdicating, giving her crown to King Frederick the 10th, fulfilling the 10 king prophecies, which is also the 10 horns and also the 10 toes mentioned in Daniel Revelation about the 10 kings. So then we have of the same section here, the 10 horns, we just saw 10 who have received no kingdom as of yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with meaning Pope Francis, with the beast being Pope Francis. So we have the 10 kings now. The transition that we need to pay attention to is the one where it says they have received no kingdom as of yet. Let me highlight this. But they will receive authority yeah, here we go. So I'm gonna highlight this real quick. So it says, but they have not received authority for one, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast. Now, what I'm trying to emphasize here is showing you how this is what we need to pay attention to. This is the transition. What I could not figure out for the longest is what will give rise or what will cause the world to call for these 10 new rulers, new global leaders to take point on global issues if the United States is already that person or is already that nation. And I keep going back to the same answer. The president of the United States. Presidents, and no, here's the second question. The second question is what has to happen for Israel, and lay the backdrop real quick if you're not familiar with it. In the end times, Israel is relentlessly under a lot of attacks and conflict with its Arab neighbors and other nations in the end times. Daniel 11 talks about it. In Psalms 83, I believe, talks about it. But in the end times, Israel is subject to immense conflict, and in that context of Israel experiencing immense conflict, no Western nation comes in and swoops in and saves the day. And we know Scripture is not a stranger to mentioning geographic locations: Jerusalem, Damascus, Syria, Iraq, or Babylon, or present-day Turkey, Persia, which is present-day Iran, Spain. The list goes on. So the Bible is not a stranger to mentioning nations, or Libya, or Ethiopia. It's not a stranger to mentioning geographic locations. But when the end times, where all these different things happen and all these different events start to take place, there is no Western nation that comes in and swoops and saves the day. So that tells me that I'm discerning here is that for some reason or another, the president of the United States changes the foreign policy with Israel, where Israel is no longer allies or strangers or somehow distant with the United States. Because presidents dictate foreign policy. And if presidents dictate foreign policy, the president does something that fundamentally changes the United States, that the world calls for new global leadership, through which the rise of the 10 kings come, in which it also affects and strains the relationship with Israel, and so much that it does not come to the aid of Israel when all the conflict starts kicking off. And it seems to me that what we see happening today with the President Trump, seems to imply that this is what it's going to be. President Trump experienced, he got shot, grazed by the ear. Secret Service came in and saved his life. And it seems like this right here, this is the event that is going to change everything. This is the event that's going to change everything. This single moment. The world, the nation is going to vote President Trump in back to office. And based off this event that we're seeing here, history has now changed course. Because from what I'm discerning, from what I'm watching, President Trump, when he becomes reelected, will set in motion policy that will fundamentally change the United States, in so much the world cannot conjoin with the United States, or the world cannot follow the United States, or the world rejects the United States, something of that nature, that it has to turn towards new leadership, which gives rise to the 10 kings. That takes place. Going back to what I was saying just a second ago, you see the president right here. I mean, there's the still trying to take, Secret Service is now wishing him out of there. I mean, whisking him out of there. But again, I say this in the context of there's the 10 kings. The 10 kings, the 10 horns we just saw are 10 kings. This is where we are in the prophetic timeline. We're at the cusp of the 10 kings who have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive authority with Pope Francis. And it's my discernment from what I'm watching that it's this event that uh, happened to the President Trump. This is the incident that will set in motion America and put America on a timeline that's going to radically change it in a direction where the president will change the United States. And when I say change, I mean dramatically change. I don't mean maybe suspend the Constitution, declare martial law, declare the United States a monarchy, something that the world cannot adjust with and is not comfortable with, that they then turn to new leadership to then get rid of the 10 kings. And it's such a change in foreign policy that it distance and separates or dissolves the relationship with Israel, where Israel is now by herself with no allies to come in and swoop in and save the day, as all the neighbors and all the enemies of Israel starts to congregate and get close to defeating her. So that God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is the only one that comes in and saves the day. That's because, again, I can't stress this enough. America does not play a role with Israel in the end times. It currently plays a role with Israel today. So what happens between today and the end times, where America is not seen, as Israel goes and suffers and goes through conflict with its enemies? And from what I'm gathered and from what I see, is that it's because of this incident here. President Trump is overwhelmingly voted back into office and fundamentally changes the United States, be it, like I said, declare martial law, reforms America as a monarchy, and changes for a policy that the world cannot follow it any longer, that it calls for a rise of 10 kings, in which it also affects the relationship with Israel, that it does not have the relationship that it dissolves or distance the relationship and alliance with Israel, that Israel has no allies except the ones that has treaty with is Egypt, Jordan, and the UAE. So this is history in the making, guys. This is what I'm watching. This is what I'm discerning, and this is how I see. This is the moment that we're watching that will change the course of history and explains how America will not play a role in end time Bible prophecy. It will not. I can't stress that enough. And I think this is the domino, the first, and it's like I almost want to express in the example. You couldn't have Jesus crucified on the cross unless the first event happened, which is Judas betrays him. Without Judas betraying Jesus, that first event that set in motion everything else, and it's that event that kicked everything else into motion. And I think this what we saw here today is the event that will also carry that or the event that will also carry into motion the other events of the book of Revelation. I mean, this man almost had his head blown off. He got grazed by the ear, so meaning that the crosshairs was probably here, but the trajectory or wind moved it to, and the divine nature of God, the nature of God, had it go 2 inches or 4 inches to the right and graze his ear. Or maybe he turned at the time where it instead of going one way, it grazed and went another way. But that's a close one for him, to say the least. So I'm watching this, what I'm discerning. I'd love to know your thoughts. Tell me what you think, and I'd love to hear, and I'll comment on it as I read them. If you guys want to tell me what you think about this. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to send a like and subscribe. It's going to help this algorithm push this thing out. Oh, it says, can you ask Kingdom Covenant and he would I got to see speculation. Can you ask Kingdom Covenant and he would ever want to do a video with Nelson Waters? I don't know who that is, but sure. Can you ask Kingdom Covenant and he would ever want to do a video with Nelson Waters? Sure. Okay. All right. I'm calling it a night. It's really late. Thank you guys for watching. Take care.